All right. So, our first review of the day is going to be for Fantastic Four: The First Steps. This is the fourth attempt at doing a Fantastic Four movie. There,
Fifth overall.
fifth overall, if you count the unreleased Roger Corman Fantastic Four, and this is the 37th film in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wow, 37 movies. Incredible stuff there. Yeah, we're gonna be watching these movies till we're 90. These movies here. So yeah. And this details they're the Marvel's first family. But this is the first time Disney has ever done an attempt at Fantastic Four there. People have been saying, well, there hasn't been a good one. There's never been a good Fantastic Four movie unless you want to count The Incredibles. People say, well, at least we got The Incredibles. That counts as our Fantastic Four movie there. So this is going to be a spoiler talk here. We're going to get into all the details, the mid-credit scene there of this, and all the plot details of this movie. So if you have not seen Fantastic Four, we do have a non-spoiler review that's going to be coming up on the channel pretty soon, within a few days. If you want to wait for that and check that out, but yeah, we're going to be doing all that, digging into that. I gave my thoughts already on Fantastic Four. We did a review of it this past Friday there. Nick and I had a special guest on. We discussed it and we liked it. I think all three of us felt pretty positively about it. Thought it was pretty solid there. Thought it was a good movie. This is the best Fantastic Four movie, even though it's not a high bar to jump over with that, but it is the best one there. But go around, get you guys thoughts on this, and what are your general thoughts on this before we move into full spoiler talk there? Lucky Dog, what's your thoughts?
Oh, you gotta do me like this. Well, I um I was super hyped about this one. I had high expectations. I was pleasantly surprised by Thunderbolts. It was hard not to think about the relation to Superman because we just come out of the theater just a few weeks ago. Fantastic Four, it's a good, not great time for me. And I feel like this talk is going to help me either understand why I'm either kind of in the wrong. Maybe they did a hell of a lot better than I was expecting. Maybe I'll have some insight that I'm like, oh, just mind blown. Or maybe we can come to terms of like, maybe this wasn't as, you know, mind bending and as big as a theatrical experience as it's kind of feeling like it's formed out to be. I've only heard about one or two other reviewers or kind of legitimate podcasters that have given it kind of um, a little bit more of a critical view, and I was kind of expecting a little bit more from the critical side. I'm not sure from Marvel fans or if you know, just standard reviewers and in general, critics in general. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear anything I missed. I would, you know, I only saw it one time. I saw it in regular D, whatever. I didn't get to see it in all that fancy stuff. Which, in comparison, I did see Superman in 4DX. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but it's an experience. I'm like, where do I get one of those chairs from my home? You know, like it is one of those kind of experiences. So I admit that coming from Superman going into Fantastic Four, I just I guess I was expecting a little bit more. I was like, okay, I was like, DC did it. I was like pleasantly surprised. Now let's get the Marvel juice. I was like, this is going to be a good summer, and I still think it was a good movie. I just feel like I have more criticisms um, to talk about than others. Y'all hit me.
Mm, yeah. What will be your rating for it there, Lucky Dog? There.
Okay, so like I said, I still think it looks amazing. It's one of the best visuals you're going to get in a Marvel experience and a theatrical experience. The antagonists, I think, outshine the protagonists, and so that's why I'm bringing this to 7 out of 10.
Okay. That's like a tune in. Good
Yeah,
tune in
yeah, yeah. Tune in.
there. What about you, there, say?
Um, I'm a little bit the opposite. I say I went in with low expectations and then came out surprised. I think it's no surprise to anyone that I've been like very down on the MCU in general since kind of right after Endgame. I've been very disappointed by a lot of the stuff that's come out, and so I've been not really excited for anything, even though it's somehow I keep getting roped into watching all of them, which I guess it's just I guess it's just going to keep happening. But I was cautiously optimistic for this. Really liked like the set design, the retro sci-fi 60s aesthetic. Thought that was very cool. Um, I liked some of the casting. I was kind of skeptical on other parts of the casting. Uh, so I was only cautiously optimistic going into this. I was like, I hope it's good, but I just haven't been big on Marvel stuff for a while. And I came out shocked at how much I enjoyed it. I think the actors settling into these characters, the ones I was skeptical of, really won me over, like Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn. I was kind of not feeling those them as those characters before the movie released, and they totally won me over in the film. I'm a big Fantastic Four fan of the comics, and I remember being in the theater seeing the 2005 movie, the 2007 movie, and just being crushed at how bad I thought they were even then.
Do
And
you mind me
so,
asking
yeah,
approximately how old you were?
I would have been 10
Okay. Yeah,
when the first
I
one
would have
came
been
out,
I
and
would have been about the
12
same.
when the second one.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I just remember being like, "Oh, this is what they did with it." And I feel like this movie was an apology in some ways for to my childhood for those experiences. And yeah, without getting into every little bit of it, 'cause I'm sure we'll get into it in the spoilers. I think this is one of the best Marvel Studios has ever done. It's going on the shelf with like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 for me.
Wow.
I give it
Wow.
a high peak. Might even go higher by the time we're done with the discussion. I'm still kind of thinking about that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and people can, like I said, listen to my full thoughts there. On the non-spoiler review that's going to be coming up on YouTube there, youtube.com, the afternoon tune. But I just gave it a tune in. Liked it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite comic book movie of the year. I think I like Superman more. I wouldn't say maybe even my favorite Marvel movie of the year. I think I like Thunderbolts more than this. I just liked a lot what Thunderbolts did and the story it was telling and the ending. Just like, okay, it's not just simply beat up the bad guy and win the day, like, what actually all the themes of it. I thought that was pretty nice and how they kind of subverted that, which I thought was good. And I don't know, maybe it was coming in also with low expectations a little bit with Thunderbolts because I wasn't expecting much with a bunch of these D list kind of characters there, but I think they really make them work and made them feel really good and gave them kind of good arcs there with that. But still, I mean, I like Fantastic Four First Steps. I think still a solid movie, solid, enjoyable movie experience. But we're going to be getting into all the details about it and just all the things about it. So yeah, so in this movie here, I mean, even though this is not a spoiler, this was already shown in the trailer. We do have it where at the beginning of the movie, where Sue finds out that she is pregnant there, and they are having a baby, and that baby is going to be Franklin Richards there. I will say, with all the effects of how great it was, that baby did look fucking weird. I would say that baby looked absolutely terrifying, especially with the crystal blue eyes there.
That
And
is
even
one of the only negatives that I did have is some of the CG with the baby. I'm with you. It set off the uncanny valley alert in my brain a bit.
yeah, that looked incredibly strange there, and people were
It
like,
was
"Well,
every time for me.
every time."
Oh,
It
it
was
was every time for me. It
I'll,
was
I'll
every
say
time.
that the one in Superman I found to be like vastly worse and more distracting than I did this one. Even though I think they both were a little weird looking, and I did have that feeling with this too.
Right.
I found the Superman one to be way worse.
Are you talking about the alien?
yeah,
The
Joseph.
the baby Joey in
Okay.
Superman. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was like way like what am I looking at? Like
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that one didn't really bother me as much because I was like, "Well, that's like an alien, kind of like a
That's
half
yeah.
mutant baby." So I was like, "Well, okay,
Yeah.
it's not really like a
What's the
real."
baseline? You
Yeah,
know.
Well, for me, the baseline is the practical costume that Metamorpho already had in the movie. Because if he's got a baby, shouldn't it just look like a baby Metamorpho and not a completely different thing?
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't understand that.
yeah. He looked like more like Etricate the Demon. Actually, he looked more like kind of like he maybe had a demon
A
like that.
little bit, yeah.
But the baby, at least I don't know. The babies in the Flash were maybe worse. Like that, those babies were maybe
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I'll say it. I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think 2023's The Flash is the single worst film ever produced, alongside Florida Gator from 1954, and it has the worst special effects ever put on screen in film. So
Yeah. So, yeah. So at
Yeah.
least I don't think it's that bad. It's not something like that, at least, in terms of terrible babies there. But yeah, that was kind of horrifying. But Franklin Richards, who, I mean, Sage would know this more than me, but obviously is one of the most powerful characters in all of the Marvel universe. There, top five.
yeah, in the comics, he can build multiverses as just like a hobby on the side that he does. I mean, it's literally infinite powers. The character's been used to create like reboots in the continuity of the comics, where the pre-reboot and post-reboot are still like continuous storyline. That's how powerful Franklin Richards is.
Okay.
So
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, so I was gonna say, so he really is like that little boy playing with the snow globe. He really is like that. So,
Kinda, kinda.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's he's on a level that is like I mean, yeah, there's like almost nothing else like it in comics. I mean,
So he didn't do
he's
anything in this, did he?
well, he brought
Did I
Sue back
miss
he
to
him?
life.
does one thing at the end,
Oh, okay.
but they kind of yeah they
It,
don't really tap into it much. But I do think they're setting him up to be a big part of why why certain characters are interested in him, and I think we're going to be getting somewhat of a like soft reset after like Doomsday and Secret Wars. And I think Franklin Richards is going to be how they make that happen.
Okay, so this is him a little bit from the comics here.
He's
Uh,
also he is in the comics also a mutant on top of having cosmic kind of genes and stuff. So he's not only their kid and influenced by their powers, but he is also a literal mutant, like X-Men mutant on top of
okay. Uh,
just before we run out of the baby talk,
that.
the only issue I felt like with this baby in comparison to every other baby that we've talked about, and I think that was 4 or 5 different films, this baby's on screen 2 or 3 times longer.
yes.
And so 2 or 3 times more CGI and um, like the Flash, obviously those babies look terrible, but they were on screen for less than a minute. So I was like, okay, maybe they just didn't finish the effects or whatever. But if the Flash was having to save those babies through the entire movie, first of all, I would have loved to have seen Sage's face while that was happening, but um, I just felt like the baby took precedent over the team in this movie, and that's where I was like, I'm not interested in the baby. As someone that has not read the comics, I felt like they were putting a baby onto me that I was like, this is not my baby. Like I came for the Fantastic Four, and now y'all make me babysit right now. Like that's what I felt like kind of going into it, and I was a little bit like a red flag. I was like, why is this called First Steps? And okay, now because it's we're babysitting. It felt like, at
Well,
times I was like, this is
literally first steps is the baby first.
yeah, yeah, and I was just I wanted more Fantastic Four and less, I guess, reaction to having this baby, I guess. And there was just, it was a montage at the beginning, and I loved it. And I wanted like 2 or 3 more scenes of them kind of just having, rapport. I didn't feel like there was much time for any rapport. It was like Johnny saying to Pedro, "Oh, you're going to be the best dad," and then it's like jokingly, he's like, "Oh, no, you're not," or something like that, or whatever. It was very kitschy, but instead of, I found many times in this movie that we were told what was being going on versus what was actually being shown. Like, show us them being a team as opposed to being told. I like the montage, but I wanted a little bit more rapport. I call me crazy, and the baby seat thing going at the end was maybe a little cheesy for some, but I wanted like 3 more scenes of those kind of like having to be daily life Fantastic Four, dealing with a baby, someone's invisible, someone's on fire, someone's a rock man, like I felt like there was a level of fun that the bad Fantastic Four was having on a little bit that I was like, I want to I want to laugh or have like a good time, and I felt like maybe this movie was a little bit too serious of an introduction for me personally. I think it's a very strong movie, and I think it's foundationally like amazing from like a starting point. And if I got another three of these, that's what I would want. Just this, but make it funnier. This, but give me more scenes that are, them not technically acting goofy and falling over and doing slapstick stuff, but give me some rapport, because I felt like there was very little time. I think we had like one dinner, maybe two
Mhm.
dinners.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean that was kind of one thing. You bring up a good point here. This movie is a tight hour and 55 minutes. Some people were saying, and there is a lot of stuff that was cut out because you look at some of the trailers. I think you even played a trailer right here, where a good amount of stuff that you saw in the trailers were not in the movie. John Malkovich, for example, was not in the movie. He was supposed to be in this as Red Ghost.
To be
And
honest, I do think he was only going to be in the montage.
okay, you don't think he had? Like, you don't think it was gonna be like Mole Man or something? He's gonna pop up a little bit
They
more.
still mentioned him in the movie, and it was in the montage. And it's when you see Reed kicking the orangutan off the tower in the
Yeah.
montage at the beginning. That's one of like the henchmen to the character that John Malkovich would have been if he had been in the movie. And they mentioned he's like, oh yeah, they defeated the Red Ghost Super Apes as part of that. I'm pretty sure it would have just been some very brief footage of him in that
Okay.
montage.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, they said it seems like, and they kind of feel like that watching the movie that a lot of things weren't kind of in it. Some stuff they cut to make this tight hour and 55. What do you think about that, Sage?
For me, I really wasn't uh, didn't feel like I was missing too much there. The only thing that I think I would have maybe wanted to see a little bit more of that wasn't there is a bit more of the things interactions with Natasha Leon. Now, I still didn't mind that it was brief, and I'll tell you what for me worked about that, which I think is different versus what people might expect. Pretty much every adaptation of the thing, and this is true to the comics, but pretty much every adaptation of the character has really focused in on kind of a identity crisis. My body's, kind of almost horrifyingly changed. I've kind of got to adopt this different person. People are treating me differently. People are scared of me, and that's kind of the like go-to origin story character arc for the thing. But what I actually liked about by not focusing, and I still think that there's a small note of that in the movie at one point, but what I liked about this version not doing that is that we're 5 years in or 4 years in to them being these characters. And I thought it was kind of nice to just change of pace for these adaptations to see him in almost a more zen state of acceptance over what's happened to him. This is 5 years later. People in the public eye love them, like they're celebrities. People love them. He's had a lot of time to kind of accept that this is the way he is now. And I feel like he's comfortable with himself, which I think is something we've just never gotten from this character on screen before. And he's, we talked about it in the retro review we did. He's one of the few characters that I did think was actually done well in the 2005 movie. I actually like that version of the character. But I think it was really nice to see a version of him that is more like the modern comics because, hey, he was having that identity crisis in the 60s and the 70s and maybe in the 80s. But Marvel's been around for 60 years now. We've had character progression. And that's one of the things I'm always looking for from these adaptations is I don't want to keep going back to what the characters were in the 60s or what they've been in other adaptations. Give me the character progression I've gotten over 70 years of comic books. And I felt like that's what I was getting with the thing in this movie. That's why maybe him having slightly less focus than the other three and being there more for group scenes than a lot of like solo scenes. That's why that worked for me.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that talked about in my review that it feels like the person who gets the shortest end of the stick is maybe Ben Grimm. Out of everybody here, is that what you kind of feel like too, Lucky Dog?
Yeah, I actually have a specific scene that I remember sitting in the theater that I was like, this is exactly what I was talking about. I think they're in the ship and they're like trying to escape or something like that. Reed says something, I think he says to Ben, like, trust me. And I was thinking, of course, Ben is going to have the most amount of trust issues with Reed because he was the one that kind of messed up the configuration, or at least he blames himself for what happened to them in gaining the powers. And I felt like there was either a dropped thread, a missing thread, or something that should have been like Reed needs to earn that trust. Like he shouldn't have to say just trust me, like you need to do something. You turned your best friend into a rock man. So like of course like it's just saying trust me doesn't feel like enough for me. And I was like this is an example of them kind of, shorthanding it because we've only got 2 hours to introduce four protagonists plus the baby. Then we got to get the antagonist. It's a lot happening. It's a lot of screen time that needs to be divided, and I think there was some sort of mandate after Oppenheimer or something like that. They said no more 3 hour movies, no more 2.5 hour movies, because it seemed like all these movies recently have been cut down under 215, right?
With these Marvel movies, typically they go about, yeah, like Thunderbolts was what, 2 hours and something, I think.
Nothing's
Yeah,
been over
It's a
230 though,
little
right?
longer.
yeah, but 230, no.
I don't think anyone's made that, and it's
Endgame, I think.
I'm talking like within the last 2 years, because there was like
Oh,
two
yeah.
years of like 3 hour movies, and we were like, all right, people, not
Oh,
everyone's got The Godfather,
yeah.
and I think the studios were like, all right, Gunn, you got Superman, do whatever you want, but it has to be under 2 hours or whatever, or 210, whatever he had. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I felt like the way I could describe this movie is I felt like I went in to Evil Dead and I was expecting Evil Dead 2. Kind of the same movie, but just more.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? And I liked
It,
what I got. I like Evil Dead, it just felt like I wanted like a little bit of a retweak.
mm. Yeah, I think this movie could have stood to be longer, a little bit, at least 10, 20 minutes. Just more scenes with the family, more of their adventures there before we kick off, because this actually shares a lot of similarities with Superman. I mean, it's not really an origin story movie. It's a story that already takes place with these characters already doing what they're doing. They're already heroes. We don't have to go through the whole first 30 minutes to an hour of the movie where it's the whole origin story and setup. And like you said, much like with the Fantastic Four from 2005, where they're dealing with the powers, like, oh, how do we do this and how do we do this? Like, no, they already got their powers. They've already been dealing with it for a minute now. And I think that with Eben Moss Bacharach, I did remark in my review that just with the effects and what they do, he's able to convey so much just with his face, just with his looks and things like that. I think that's really great there. But I would have, like I said, I would love to see more with him and Natasha Lyonne. I love Natasha Lyonne as an actress. I think she's very good, and I just think there's a lot of room on the cutting room floor there.
Something was dropped.
Yeah,
You don't hire Natasha for 3 scenes like that.
yeah. I would have loved to see that. And that would
She's definitely making out with the Rock Man.
have been. I would have. I think she plays a, yeah, teacher, a preschool teacher, or maybe
I
like
had to like
fifth
go
grade.
with my eyes like cartoons. I was like, is that Natasha Leo? It's like, who let her out of the Orange is the New Black jail?
And I think we when we talked about the trailer, the casting, Sage and I speculate. I think you did say she was probably going to play Alicia Masters. I think you probably even before the
Yeah, she had a different name in the movie though, I thought, didn't she?
uh,
I don't think
this,
was she actually supposed to be Alicia Masters?
I
Because
can check.
Alicia Masters is blind.
Oh
I mean,
no,
that's like
she
the
was.
kind of a huge part of
uh,
her character.
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
maybe
she
she
plays
goes
a woman
blind in the
named.
next one.
Yeah, yeah, you like the thing blinds her.
Oh
Like
God,
uh,
Rock
Rachel
slide.
Roseman
Rockstar.
is what her name is. Okay, so she's not playing Alicia Masters, playing a
Okay.
character named Rachel Roseman. There. Okay, so she's playing that.
I guess
Into
maybe that's one reason why I didn't totally have a problem with not seeing more of her. Because if I want to see the thing have like a serious relationship on screen, I want it to be that character and not just another different love interest. Not that you can't have one and that it can't be interesting, but Alicia Masters is the character I want to see him interact with if he's going to have a subplot like that.
mm,
Another big thing for Ben that I think is it's maybe not something that like non-comic book fans are going to think about as deeply, but you know, it's a kind of a big deal to me that you see him being a pilot, even though it's in a group scene and it's not like the focus of those scenes necessarily. seeing him actually perform and do it well as a pilot is something that's really cool. And that even the comics, I actually don't think spend a lot of time exploring actually getting to see him in action doing that. So that was a really big kind of big fan. Like, oh, I wish the comics would do this more. I wish an adaptation would do this more. And here's something finally tackling that. Again, even if it's kind of just part of the bigger action scene, that still felt like a very special touch to his character. For me, the whole idea of I guess the trust between them, it to me it works just because it is 5 years into this. I feel like all that sort of relationship building is kind of like picking up a comic book, 10 years in to like all the stories. They're kind of done all that building in their past, and I think there's a really great scene where Ben and Reed are out on the balcony, and Reed starts like he starts trying to apologize, and then is like, "Look, this again, man. Come on, you've been beating yourself up for 5 years about this. I've gotten over it. You need to get over it too." I thought that was a really great scene.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go back to the baby real quick. This is a point and plot point that happens. Some people are calling it a little bit dumb, and I was like, why did this happen? So this is a little bit later in the movie. They saw Galactus, and we're going to get to Galactus and Silver Surfer in a minute. But they go to Galactus' ship. They see him. They go like, "What the fuck is Galactus? This huge kind of thing there." He makes his offer of what he wants. He's like, "Hey, I want the baby. This baby can alleviate me of my torture, of my sentence of constantly having this hunger. Franklin Richards can replace me. He'll be the new Galactus," which I think he does in the comics become the new Galactus at a certain point.
It's actually funny. Galactus becomes a herald of Franklin Richards
Mm,
as Franklin Richards goes on to create the next universe after the current one eventually comes to its end in like trillions of years.
yeah. So
So
there's
Galactus babies coming down like 2027, something like that.
Well, we'll see. I bet they'll have some time jumps to age the character up quite a bit, but
yeah.
Baby
Uh,
Yoda, but Galactus.
but so you got that. So they see him. It says makes the offer there. If you give me the baby, I'll spare Earth. They were like, well, no, we're not going to give you the baby, especially since you learn in the movie they've been trying really hard to have a baby there. They just kind of even gave up at some point because they there. Um, and yeah, so they come back to Earth and then they do a press conference immediately when they get back. And Reed Richards announces that was like, well, he made an offer, and we had to refuse, and it says they wanted a baby, and we said no. And then obviously people going crazy because it's like, of course it's giving the fucking baby. If it's us and this baby, we're gonna pick us. Did you think that was a bad moment in terms of writing in the movie?
I didn't think so. Is it specifically that like the labor started in that moment, or like what part of it, I guess, are people zeroing in on? Because I really haven't listened to much of what other people have been saying yet.
Just the part where he comes in the press conference and then reveals what Galactus wanted. He wanted the baby. And he said that
Oh,
he said that.
well, I think I think the Fantastic Four just is a history of both, even other adaptations and in the comics. These characters are always very kind of transparent, if you will, with kind of what's going on and their public image. They do a sort of not social media for sure because it goes way beyond and predating that, but they're sort of managing of the public image that I don't know if you see much from other characters in general in Marvel. But Reed Richards is also autistically honest. Like he will just say the thing that is true, regardless of whether it's actually a good idea or not. So I think that's very in character for Reed. If you know the character Reed Richards, I think that's very in character of him to do.
Hmm. What was that a big issue for you, Lucky Dog? As far as
I flagged it when it happened. It just mostly because I come from a marketing background. I was like, this man has like $3 billion. He's got one of the biggest, nicest towers, and I think he had like one lady kind of directing him what was going on. I was like, where's the team? This is where I was like, Superman had the news team, and they had everyone kind of doing their own thing. I was like, Fantastic Four is big enough at this point. If they're making, if they have this much money, they need a team. And I was like, and now they need a PR team because they needed some like direction a little bit, and I felt like it was a little bit inconsistent with. I think we've seen Tony Stark kind of do this, and he actually has at least Pepper Potts kind of give him a little bit more direction. But it felt like for Reed Richards to be the smartest man in the planet or the universe or the galaxy or whatever. Uh, it just felt a little bit like inconsistent with character a little bit, but it was like, he's like, we tried, we tried to save us, like we're like, man.
When did Reed become from Mississippi? What happened? Are you from Mississippi? I thought he was from New York. He's not from New York.
That's the sequel. That's the sequel.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, anyways, he yeah, it just felt like a little bit out of character, and for I guess enough people, it felt like if enough people are calling it out, it was either bad writing or it was a bad read moment, and I guess it's open to interpretation.
No. I don't know. I mean, the way I kind of saw it how like Say saw like just Reed as a guy that can't help but be honest and just kind of deliver that. I'm like you said. I mean, they do have because like the woman you're mentioning. So the woman is Sarah Niles. That's the actress's name, and she's been in quite a bit of things recently. She was just recently in F1. She was in that movie. People might know her as well. She was the therapist in Ted Lasso, as well. People watch that show. And she was yeah. So she's popping up in quite a bit of things recently. And she plays. I watching the movie. I thought she was more like their assistant there, but looking up her character, so she's the CEO of the Future Foundation, but it doesn't seem like being a CEO doesn't seem like she's doing more like assistant work. Like this is stuff like you should do, like not like you're the CEO of like this big company, but I mean I don't know. But so that's her official character.
I'd say you could think of it like the CEO having to serve like shareholders.
Mm, okay, maybe that is it there. So, yeah, that seemed like more of a moment that they would go like, "Well, let you talk about it, and then we're gonna go and kind of process." Because like she gave birth on the ship, and they were chased by some silver metallic lady on a surfboard. It's like they processing a lot. It's like, and they were there for 30 days. They come
Well,
back, so I was like, yeah.
I thought perspective and time were difficult to tell in this movie. It felt like we were just told, oh, it's been 30 days, oh, it's been 6 months, oh, it's been so and so. And then the other thing was perspective. I didn't feel like we had any idea of what other people thought of the Fantastic Four outside of the tower because we were in there for 40 minutes, I think. Um, did y'all feel like y'all had like an idea of what the world thought of them the entire time? Like I felt like we didn't have our like I said, our team. What was Superman's guy, the Jimmy something,
Jimmy
Oh,
Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen.
we needed a Jimmy Olsen, and I felt like we were really missing just even that perspective, not even that like energy, just that perspective.
Hmm. What do you think?
Um, Honestly, I felt like I had a great beat on the public perception of the characters through the whole film. I guess I really did. As far as the time thing goes, I also I think that they make it's a small dialogue, and I caught it on the second viewing, and I didn't really notice it on the first. But they do make a point of kind of bringing up the idea of like something like like the Interstellar talks about with like time dilation during space travel. So
Mhm.
we saw that whole scene all in real time, right?
Oh,
Them going up to the ship,
yeah.
having the fight or giving birth, like them getting away, all that. We all saw that kind of in real time. But then
Mhm.
when they land on Earth, it's been like, was it 3 months? I want to say they said, and they're like,
30
it's
days.
in.
They just said 30
Oh,
days.
is it 30 days? Okay. But they do make there is a comment that they make at kind of as they're leaving. They like bring up the time dilation of it all. So then when it's been a month afterwards, to me, I felt like that was a good setup of, hey, it's going to be longer for the people here than it's going to feel for like following the characters during the sequence of events. And I actually thought they did it. It's again, it's a small dialogue, so it's not like in your face, but I thought they did a good job of setting up like time is going to feel wonky because we're specifically playing with how time dilation in space works.
Mhm.
Okay. And to Lucky Dog's point there about the citizens, the people. So, the beginning movie we get like Fantastic Four, and they're the only heroes of this universe on Earth 828, which is a tribute to Jack Kirby. His birth date is there, so that they do a tribute to him there with that, naming the Earth 828. But you see that because they're the only heroes of the earth, they're able to implement through their genius and through their heroic acts the future foundation, and they're able to revolutionize the world. And you see this retro '60s type world there. And I guess all these countries all around join up together, except for Latveria. I guess there you see that shot of the UN, and you see the missing kind of shot there. We're going to get to that in a moment later on. Um, to get to more of the point there with the baby, so you see people are mad at them about it. Obviously, people want their heads. It's like we want the baby, and then give them up. Obviously they're to save themselves. But then Sue gives this speech, and I want to get you guys' opinion on it. Is it corny, or does it fit within a superhero movie? She gives that speech there about we're a family. She pulls out her best Dominic Toretto there and brings them together. But when she says that speech, she only says it to the people of New York. It's not like is there a camera on her at that time, or no? I don't think there's a
Mm,
camera, right?
I don't remember seeing one.
Oh yeah, there is
Or
because
is there? Okay.
the woman, I remember they cut to the woman, that the
Oh yeah,
CEO
because
woman.
yeah,
So
they're on
she's watching it
TV.
on the TV. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Okay, because
Okay,
I was
okay.
wondering if people like across other places are able to see her there. Because I was wondering about that, about like other countries, like why aren't other countries maybe come and try to take the baby or something like. But I get that's a lot to bring into a movie. But there did you like that moment? Was that a strong moment there in the movie, the speech, Sue Storm?
For me, it totally worked. And I think part of it is if it was the regular world of the MCU, it might not have. But because this is a different universe that feels more technologically progressed and in a lot of ways socially progressed than, say, our world in the real 1960s or the Marvel, the main Marvel world in the 1960s, I think it created instantly, as soon as the movie starts, an atmosphere of just a kinder, better, more caring world in general compared to kind of your main world. And so it's a moment that might not work in a typical Earth in a different movie, but the science fiction of this alternate universe that just has its shit together, for lack of a better term. I believe in that world that was able to change people's minds, especially because they seem to have had such a personal. I think that's part of what the montage at the beginning is doing so well, is establishing there is this whole montage of how close people feel to them as individual human beings and having like a relationship with society. That yeah, I totally believe like a heartfelt speech like that changed minds. And on top of that, the Fantastic Four are corny. Just to throw that on the table a little bit, they're corny. They've been corny since day one in the comics. They're characters that it can be very easy for them to be too corny, and that's I think why a lot of the previous adaptations were so bad, is they went too far into that. But I don't think it's kind of like Superman a little bit too. Like you can't get rid of the corniness from these characters 100%, or they're not those characters anymore.
What about you, Lee? You find that believable?
I think the fact that we have to bring it up tells it everything. um, no, but I actually align a little bit more with Sage on this one. That it does feel like the writing fit the time for the world, but for me, I'm still on what is it, 626 in my head?
Six one
Six
six.
one.
616
Heck,
in my head.
there's
I'm
good
still
arguments about whether that's the right number or not, but I won't even get into that.
the OG world, I guess. I'm still for that. I mentally there. I just I wanted to be moved, and I just wasn't moved. And I don't know if it was the writing, or if maybe there should have been an action scene to show that they're still saving your life, or there's some there to really emphasize it, or just reconfigure when they're going to start backing the Fantastic Four again. I think that's the last time we kind of get the perspective of the people. Am I wrong?
Mm.
You see a bit of it as they're building the I'm forgetting what the name, but the
Oh
different
yeah,
thing they're
the
using.
big
Yeah,
Teleport.
you
things.
see you see a bit of that. Plus, to be fair, I mean this is just my own thought process. But if I was upset at them and then I heard that, and then like an hour later they announced their plan to fix everything, I'd be like,
Mhm.
okay, well, they just told me that they have a plan. So the fact that those two things came very close together also I think would be a big part of public opinion turning. Because
Right.
if you're putting that plan out there, it's like, okay, well, great, they figured it out. We have a whole different solution now.
Mm.
I also felt this. I could be getting into nitpick territory at this point because it's comic books and whatnot. But I like to, with a lot of movies, I guess, figure out the issue with the protagonist, and I felt like they came to the conclusion of how to fix everything in about 10 minutes. And I was
Mm.
like, wait, when did they get that formula? I was like, they got the cheat codes or something like that. They got the PlayStation cheat codes, and I was like, where did that come from? It normally I felt like it would have been like something that was set up earlier, be like, oh, we teleported this earlier, so we can do this now. We can just scale it. It's normally like a callback kind of thing. I felt there was a couple times in this movie there just wasn't callbacks, and maybe that's just the old school movie me wanting to be like, ah, yes, I remember the knife that was under the pillow that stabbed the guy. The Chekhov's knife. Chekhov's egg, where like it felt like it should have been set up at the beginning, and maybe it was for more comic book centric fans. Did I miss anything?
Well, there was that whole scene where Johnny's like wants to have the meeting about the suits and Reed's in the middle of doing the teleportation experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bring up a good point there, Lucky Dog, about the teleportation device. That's the big plan there. People also found that a little unbelievable that because it requires all these different countries to come together. But like you said, they do set that up at the beginning that all of them are kind of working together to create these things in order. Because at first their plan is they're going to teleport all of Earth and then to like another, I guess not universe, but like another place in the
There'd be
galaxy.
like another solar system
Yeah.
that has like the same type of sun and like kind of structure of gravitational pull and stuff.
So that's their initial plan of what they're gonna do. Um, I mean, to build all those things, I guess you could say, I don't know. I mean, again, the time sense of that is like, I don't know, like maybe a year or something. Or I mean, it's because when they actually finish building it, seems like it's December.
Well, they
If
said
you,
like Galactus is coming. I was like, what is the timeline? I did
yeah,
we have a timeline? And that again, that's where I was like, a ticking time bomb clock or something.
I
Remember?
believe it was exactly 7 months.
Was it
okay.
exactly 7 months? Yeah,
Because when
I
they
think so.
yeah. They say it, but I don't feel like it was like repeated for dumb people like me that they're like, what time is it, man? Like how long have we been in the Baxter building, man? Like, so
yeah,
that's where I felt like I was a little bit lost time wise. Maybe
yeah,
it was
because
supposed to be too.
when Silver Surfer first comes, it's Halloween, so it's October. And then they go to the planet, and then it's like 30 days. So that must be December. Then when they finish building it, then it's like you see it's snowing, so it must be December again. So I assume it's maybe like a full year that it took them to do all that. That's what I'm guessing.
Maybe it was, yeah, maybe it was even a little longer than I thought, but yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they do that. And then there's the whole thing where they have to do like the energy, like conservation. They have to do that in order to because they need all this energy. They have to conserve all this energy to use the machines, but doesn't matter because Silver Surfer fucks up all the machines. Anyway, she comes, destroys it all. Then their new plan is they're gonna put Galactus. They're gonna just teleport him. Now, I was talking with somebody about this, and he was kind of confused there, and I was like, well, because he was like, well, don't you need the other, like another teleportation machine to ship them somewhere, or could one just done it and then because they're just gonna use one, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, no, that actually, I think so it wasn't like a machine and then teleporting to a location with another machine. It was just a machine that would shoot you somewhere, and you
yeah.
could put coordinates into it. But it wasn't like, yeah, you didn't need to have like another machine set up somewhere else to like spit them back out or anything like that.
Oh, okay. But wasn't that what they did with the egg though? What didn't they? Because didn't he need the other machine?
As like a test experiment, yes.
Okay, but he didn't care. Well, he could just type in the coordinates, I guess, with the thing and just
Yeah,
push
yeah,
them.
it
Okay.
was still like that. You wouldn't have needed another machine on like somewhere else to like provide like an exit for the portal. It's just a matter of sending it somewhere, and especially, I mean, especially if you're trying to get rid of something and you don't want it to be coming back, you probably don't want an exit entrance on the other side of where you're sending it either.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that makes okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. So yeah, talking about a little bit about Galactus there, Silver Surfer. What did you all think
Sca-
of?
s-
Oh,
I
Scale
did want to
of
just. Oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to mention one last thing about the baby is that because CGI, right, looked weird for me at times too. But there were other times when I was looking at it, I was like, I don't think there's any CGI there. And then afterwards, like reading some interviews, uh, there's a lot of shots in the movie where there's no CGI. Like there's a lot of shots of it just being a baby. And I what I'm wondering is is it a matter of like it looks really weird, so like it imprints that it looks weird, and then so even scenes where it is just a baby and there's nothing like no special effects, it's just kind of carrying through. But especially watching it a second time, I noticed I think the majority of its screen time, I don't think there was any CGI at all. It was just like a couple of shots where they needed it to move around in a weird way, where it was like, oh, okay.
yeah. I think like the scene where they're
But yeah,
like the when he's like bringing her back to life and they're holding the baby. I think that
yes,
looked like a
that
real
had
baby.
some CGI.
Yeah, but I think when he's kind of holding it at first, it's like okay, that looks like a real baby. But then when he like puts it
Yeah,
down and then okay, that's baby.
or the scene where Reed is just talking to his son just at in the lab by himself. There was no CGI whatsoever in that scene.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, some scenes yeah, it did look like a baby
So that's
there.
why it didn't maybe bother me as much as it did some people. As I was like, it's got weird looking moments, but I swear there's also quite a few moments in here that where it's not CG heavy either. So
How you feel about Galactus there? Galactus. I mean, at least he's not a cloud anymore, so he's not a
yeah,
ship
I
anymore.
mean, for me, it was a complete redemption. I mean, I remember being pissed walking out of the theater in 2007 about what they did to that character, turning him into a cloud. I thought they did a fantastic job with him here. I loved that Galactus was practical some of the times, like they really put that actor in the suit. Obviously, there's still a lot of CG on top of that in many of the shots. But the fact that there was any practical element to it at all, I thought was great. Ralph Ineson as soon as they cast him, I said, that's great. He's got such a good voice. I thought that came through really well. He's booming. I think they did a good job of making him scary, like and actually feel intimidating as like a presence and size. Um, at first I was a little disappointed by like I was wondering like, oh, is he gonna not be very colorful, because but then it's because you're seeing him like in darkness when you're seeing him in his ship, but later when you see him in daylight it is no, that's actually super purple, super blue. They like went pretty good on the color scheme with it. um yeah, I really was happy with how they handled the character. They even got into his backstory a little bit without spending like too much time on it. I thought that was a good balance. And seeing, when they first step on his ship, I really loved the first few beats before they like started interacting with them, because what it reminded me of is them exploring the ship in the first Alien just a little bit. I got
Mm.
just a little pinch of that in there. And another spot where I got a tinge of Aliens in this movie as well, but I'll save that.
Yeah. What do you think about Galactus there, Lucky Dog?
I basically agree with everything Sage said. I at the time of watching Silver Surfer '09 or whenever the hell that came out, I didn't know
Oh seven.
that '07. I didn't know when I didn't know that Galactus was supposed to be there, so him being a cloud, I guess, didn't really affect me. I was just like, all right, this kind of sucks, you know. But I did play. I think it was DC and a Marvel, some sort of Marvel game, and Galactus was in it, and it just totally turned me on to it. I was like, this is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen on, as an antagonist. And then the fact that he's like giant. I don't know about giant things, but I think I have a little bit of like thalassophobia or something like that, like giant things in the water. I'm not sure if I'm like I like that stuff. It kind of gives me like the queasiness a little bit, but like it's also like an exciting queasiness at the same time. I don't know, but I was just like, holy shit, seeing like Galactus would be fucking next level. And so the one thing I wanted to talk about was obviously it's not just the look, but the sounds. Like when his eyes light up, it's like be, it's like the iconic
Mm.
like sound, I was like, oh, young me was just like, I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy right now. And then the other thing was the scale. I think a lot of people have talked about the scale of Galactus. He should have been bigger, or maybe he scaled himself smaller. Can y'all explain?
So I can answer that for you. Galactus in the comics is capable of. They did not say this in the movie necessarily, but Galactus is capable of size changing. So he can be skyscraper walking around the city, or he can be big enough to hold a planet. That is very much in the within his power set in the comics to be able to kind of expand or contract his size.
Right.
I think he was consistently the same size in this movie, so I don't know if they'll necessarily bring that up in the future. Um, but between the scene of him in the ship and then him walking around, I thought to me he felt like the same size within this movie's context. But
Right.
if in the future movie he shows up and he's even bigger, I don't. I think it's like yeah, that's something he could do. So I feel like
Mhm.
they could just kind of bring that up in the next movie if he is bigger. But
Mhm.
Yeah,
And Innocent's nearly perfect for this role. I mean, it
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah. You think we're gonna see him again, maybe in six
I
months?
hope
Maybe?
so. I think the fact that they didn't kill him, which that's been a big criticism of mine throughout the entire MCU, even when I was really into the MCU during like phase 1 through 3, I would still be very critical of them always killing their villains off and being like, these villain characters are big, important characters that have a lot going on and evolve over time, and they always kill them off at the end of every movie. So you never get the villains really developing outside of one or two exceptions. And I was very happy that they did not just find a way to kill Galactus. Um, and then instead sent him away. I think he's guaranteed. I guarantee he's going to come back.
I think the popcorn bucket says everything. We're going to the Fantastic Four, but we're buying an $80 Galactus head.
That's a good point.
Well, well, I mean, you can't put all that popcorn in Thing's head. You can't. I mean, he got kind of small head, man. You can't put all that popcorn in his head. His cranium.
Yeah, you got pea
Uh,
head.
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I hope to see him back. I think Ralph Ineson, perfect choice. I mean, the voice. I think the scale of him is really great. I think he's very intimidating. There, especially the character seeing him for the first time. It's like us seeing him for the first time, and all that. I think that was also really good there. Um, and it's just it gets the sense that out of all the villains they face, they haven't faced a threat of this level ever before. So I think that also added to it before there, which is really good. So yeah, I thought that was really good. Silver Surfer. You
Oh,
have Julia Garner. Oh, go ahead. You
before we
got
get
one.
to the Surfer, first of all, excellent coverage. The one thing I wanted to cover with Galactus was I did feel like he's a little bit OP compared to the rest of the protagonists. I was like, we
Mm,
got Rockman, stretchy guy, and
Flame
Invisible
on
Girl,
dude,
Flame
and
on. Yeah, I was like, Galactus come in, so it's like get your ass, like I don't even know. I just for me, I was like, how are they gonna defeat it? And to me, I honestly didn't think I saw anything but Sue Storm kind of get like an OP power boost or something like that. She's just like
mm,
use the force into the thing, uh, into the time portal thing. But yeah, I was like, what is the thing gonna do? Is he gonna run into walls and Johnny? There's even a scene where like the thing and Johnny are about to like run into the Galactus, and I was like, oh, this is about to be clobbering time here, and it was like a little doink on his head or something like that, and I was like, is he supposed to be OP? Is
Yes.
he?
So
Yeah.
so I can totally Galactus is part of the reason he feeds on the planets too is he's actually eating celestials. Like if you remember how the celestial was growing inside the planet in Eternals. So that's part of it is he's actually feasting on those things before they're born.
Mm,
Um, and Galactus is unbeatable in like a physical fight for any character. Thor can't do anything. Uh, no characters can really physically like in a fight. Silver Surfer can't even really do anything, right? And you saw the kind of the scale between the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer's powers. So the and part of the reason I was very happy with the conflict as an adaptation is Silver Surfer. Or sorry, Galactus is always a character that Reed has to find a way to, or the team has to find a way to outsmart. So I like that. That's, they try and trick him with the baby and then moving it, and oh, does he know what this device is going to do or what we're using it for? And that kind of we're preying on the fact that Galactus is unaware of what our plan is to beat him. It's always a way of like, we got to outsmart him, or we got to get him into a certain position. Um, that being said, Sue Storm's powers are the most powerful abilities in the comics as well. She is, in terms of like raw physical strength, she is capable of the most in the
Why
comics
was she
too.
able to do that then and not at the beginning of the movie?
Well, there was like an overstressing of it. So
Okay.
it was an extreme, right? It was like a like kind of
Super
it
Saiyan.
was almost like a little bit. It was, I would compare it to like real life stories, right? You ever heard one of those stories where like a mother will like just sheer due to sheer adrenaline like kind of lift a car and move it just a little bit because her baby's in it. That's what
Mhm,
it was.
mhm.
That's what that moment was.
Mm, yeah.
Yep.
I know some people have talked about that moment. There's like, can Sue Storm really do that? And it's all its mom power, or she used the power of mothering to
Right here.
save.
Uh-huh.
But she is that powerful, and people say in the comics she
Yeah.
has fought Celestials in the comics.
Yeah, and it was a straining and a stress. Clearly, it was pushing her over an edge, but it was still straining of a power she does actually have.
Yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, you mentioned that scene there with because yeah, Galactus like tosses the thing in the sky. Lucky Dog
Yeah.
mentioned that, and he just he's up there, and Johnny goes to get. So can Johnny breathe in space, or can he not get frozen there, or he's too?
Like he runs out of oxygen when they're on Galactus's ship earlier in the movie, right? And they have to like carry thing has to carry him back to the ship. It's just because it was only just getting into the upper atmosphere that it was, he was able to kind of pull him back down.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, there is that though, and yeah, I mean, we don't really see. I mean, Johnny could have went. I don't know, supernova. I mean, he could have maybe did something like that. I guess. And it seemed like people mentioned they didn't go after like his eyes and his mouth enough. They could have just went after them. Those are the two things that are maybe the most exposed, the eyes and the
I
mouth.
mean, they went after the eyes, and it kind of just didn't work. So I don't know if the mouth would have fared better. Maybe I guess that one they didn't really try, but
Yeah,
I
they should have
I, I
watched
mean
Superman. Like Johnny should have flown into his mouth and then caused indigestion and then heartburn,
Right.
something like that. Yeah, he
Oh,
should
if we were
be a
watching The Boys, y'all be
2.0.
saying they jump his ass.
That is what people kept saying Ant-Man should do to Thanos. So
Yeah, yeah.
we're circling back to that conversation.
Um, and then people mentioning speaking about the powers there, like when Galactus was stretching out. That's a weird sentence, but he was stretching out Reed there, and he was looking like Laffy Taffy. People
Yeah.
saying, "Well, can't Reed just continue just to stretch and stretch? Like, why was he really screaming in pain like that?"
So that's something that I'll say is inconsistent in the comics. Just how far Reed can stretch is for the entire existence of these characters has kind of just been at the whim of whatever writer to be like, all right, well, my comic run, these are his limits. So I would say that it's the same with the movie. It's just that was the movie telling you this is what his limit is.
But I feel like there wasn't a limit because there wasn't really like oh, now he's not going to be okay or his head's not, going back to normal or something like. There wasn't like a repercussion. It felt like
I
just
think the fact that he was in pain was enough to tell me that like, yeah, this is about him maxing out here.
it was
Mm,
horrifying. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
I was like, why did they do my boy Pedro like this again? He's always screaming on on screen on the TV or movies or something. He's always being just tortured. They love torturing that man.
Well, yeah.
It's a good
So
point.
they
He's almost taken on like a Sean Bean sort of. Sean Bean dies in every movie. He's a sort of status.
It's got that bad.
But they do defeat Galactus. They push him in there. Well, Silver Surfer comes in last minute save. Silver Surfer comes in there, and then she's able to push him into the teleportation device there. Silver Surfer, what are we thinking? Silver Surfer, really great, great effects.
I loved her. I loved her. I think and again, I'll say, just like the Thing or Johnny in the 2005 movie, in the 2007 movie, for everything I hate about that film and all the problems it has, for its time, the Silver Surfer effects don't look bad in that film. So I don't come at it too hard about that. But I still think, as far as like the feat of what you're seeing the Silver Surfer do, you in that 2007 movie, you never really got a great sense of what the Silver Surfer was actually capable of. Here, I think you do. Silver Surfer can ride on a wormhole through space, like can literally surf a wormhole, can survive getting sucked into an event horizon and have that only be a temporary, uh, you know, temporary setback, really. I think they really delivered on the scale of what Silver Surfer is capable of here. Just the how cool of like sci-fi imagery that is, like the actual visual imagery of her surfing on like the dust and debris of the event horizon is, I think, one of the coolest things a superhero movie's ever done visually. And I liked the gender swap here. I thought that worked really well. And like I said earlier, there's actually a bit of this movie that does remind me of Aliens, and that's in, I think, the whole motherhood theme of Ripley and Newt being kind of paralleled with like the alien queen, right, in that movie. I think Silver Surfer's backstory of having become the Silver Surfer to protect her world to save her daughter, being a bit of a reflection of Susan Storm with her child, gave me just a little bit of that aliens kind of motherhood element that I also thought I really liked how that was handled. And basically every like the de facto comic book story of the Fantastic Four, gets through to the Silver Surfer, which is Norrin Rad in the comics and gets him to change his mind. There's always this kind of plea of to humanity, and it always works. And the Silver Surfer always portrays Galactus in that origin story. But actually having Johnny, and I love that Johnny got to figure something out, and Johnny wasn't stupid. Sometimes Johnny's played up as stupid in certain adaptations, and he's not. He's very smart too. He's kind of a scientist in some ways himself. So I like that we got that in the film. But the fact that he figured this whole thing out, and then he used the recordings of the destroyed worlds to pressure the Silver Surfer into having that change of heart. To be honest, I think that's a better reason and setup for the Silver Surfer changing her or his mind and having that come back in last minute save. I think that's the best that's ever been done, and I'm including the original source material in that.
Wow. Okay. What about you, Lucky Dog?
Oh yeah, Gardner. Is it Gardner?
Garner?
I think it's
Gar-
Garner.
Garner.
Gardner. Um, like holy shit! Like her ability to like switch from Ozark, hey y'all, what y'all doing down there, to this is like incredible. I think this is like unlocking a whole nother talent for her. I know it's weird because she's clearly got, tons of CGI all over her, but she is so good in this. I guess it's the same way with like Thanos. I was like, this person just feels real. I mean, texture alone, silver and whatnot, but I was just like the the realness of the character translated not only just from the writing of the screen, but it just transcended the acting. And I was like show stealer.
Mhm. The that moment is kind of one of my thing. I don't know. I gotta think. I mean, it is maybe one of my favorite action moments in a comic book movie ever. The scene where they're running from her and then she's chasing them. Like that looks just really good. And
She's scary as hell.
it is a really good scene. She's very scary there. Great, special effects with her. And then I know, Marvel movies sometimes get a lot of criticism there. I've been one of those people that like sometimes the effects look like shit. And then they've rushed these movies out and the effects just look terrible. Here, I think everything except for the baby. I think everything looks really good here. Where they go to when they show Galactus, when they show Silver Surfer, when they do in the Event Horizon scene, the black hole, like all that looks really good. All that looks really super gorgeous there. I thought that was fantastic. Well, damn, I didn't mean to say that, but I thought that looked really great there. I thought that looked really awesome. So I thought that was good. Yeah. So there. And then there's the mid credit scene of this movie, where you don't see the face, you don't see Doctor Doom talk or anything like that. You just see the back of his head, and then it jumps to another 4 years later. So it's another 4 years. So now we see Franklin Richards, where now is a 4-year-old, and then we see. I guess they don't. I guess he was able to sneak in there, and then you see that Doctor Doom is there with Franklin Richards inside the Baxter building. So I guess the question is, I mentioned that scene earlier where you saw that whole scan of the United Nations, and you saw Latveria. There wasn't a representative there. So is this Doom? I think they did say that there is a Doom in this universe, but the one
I
that
believe
Robert.
they've said this Doom is from this universe. The one
Okay,
that
so
we
this.
see in the credit scene is, yeah, this
Okay,
world.
so was that supposed to be Robert Downey Jr. Doom, or is that another?
It was him actually.
Oh,
They've come out and said outright that was not a stand-in or a body double or anything. That was him in the cloak, even though you don't see his face. It was him on set.
okay.
Jesus.
So you see his face there. I mean, we don't see his face. We see the mask and everything. So it's in the green hood and everything like that. You see Franklin touching his face.
They just
So
paid so they could say that. That's crazy. Could
uh,
literally be anybody, you know?
yeah, I guess. I mean, we don't know. Shit, it could have been anybody. Yeah.
I think part of it is because I feel like this hasn't happened in a long time, but if you guys remember in some of the early MCU movies, sometimes the post-credit scene would not be just like it would be a tease for the next film, but it would also actually be like a scene from that movie. Not necessarily from the first scene either. It'd be like a scene from like randomly somewhere in the film that just kind of they cut and showed you out of context.
I
And
liked
I
that.
do think this might be a scene from Avengers Doomsday that's just kind of cut out of context. So I think that might be
Mm,
why it's him and they didn't use a body double, is because it's actually part of a longer scene they filmed for this other movie.
yeah. Okay. And I know Sage said he would have given a lower score if they actually heard him speak there or saw his face. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What'd you think about that mid credit scene there?
I mean,
Uh,
it doesn't get me excited. I mean, I just am so against Robert Downey Jr. playing this character. I still there are a couple of ways that I think it could work, and I'm willing to, wait and make an actual judgment until I see it, and maybe they go with one of those really creative directions that somehow kind of pulls it together. But unless and until that happens, I hate this casting. I've hated it since the day they announced it. I think it is a horrible, cynical, oh, our movies aren't as popular, so let's make a cash grab based decision to just get general audiences that just go, oh, that guy's in the movie again. I think most of the general audience that is not familiar with the source material is going to go to see this movie, and they're not going to know who Doctor Doom is. They're going to say, oh, Iron Man's the bad guy now. That's interesting. There's a movie about an evil Iron Man. That's what most people are going to think. And it's going to piss me off to no end that's going to be what the perception of Doctor Doom is. Doctor Doom is my favorite character from all of Marvel Comics. I think he's incredibly got so much depth. He's a very complex, and he's been done pretty terribly three different times. Strangely enough, the Roger Corman Doctor Doom is actually from the unreleased movies actually better than any of the three released films so far. But again, unless they go with a very weird, very inspired creative choice, like, hey, we're going to spend $100 million on Robert Downey Jr. and he's going to do a really good voice, but you're never going to see Robert Downey Jr.'s face. That could be a great way to do it because I think he's a good enough actor if it's a vocal performance. But I don't think they're going to spend $100 million on him just to not show his face, just to not sell the movie based on the fact that he's in
We
it.
think it's
So,
gonna be disfigured. You think?
well, that's the thing is if he actually has the really horrible disfigured face that the character is supposed to have, and it's Robert Downey Jr. does a really good voice, the general audience, they're not even going to realize that the same guy that played Iron Man is playing this character. That's the way in which this could actually work and be really good. And so there's ways that it could happen. There are totally ways that it could happen. But if they just have Robert Downey Jr.'s face on screen, I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate it with every fiber of my being. And I do think that if Franklin reviving Susan was right, it was what they showed at the end of this movie. Doctor Doom easily could be hoping for Franklin to heal his face. I don't know if that's where they're going to go with it or not. I just look, yeah. If it's really just Robert Downey Jr. playing this character with Robert Downey Jr.'s face, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. Doom? Look,
uh, um, let me think. It's kind of the easy pick. I'm right there with Sage on that one again. Uh, it's an easy pick. I feel like they saw the box office dwindling. They ran out of all their Avengers because Captain America's no more. The Hulk can't have his own standalone. Black Panther unfortunately passed. Um, who else am I forgetting? Captain Marvel was bullied out of the MCU. Um,
Thor.
Spider-Man's not smart enough to lead a team anymore either.
yeah, I don't even know if he really wants to. I don't. It's
Probably not.
look, hindsight 2020. Maybe they should have put more eggs in their basket on, more Spider-Man kind of leading the charge. But they who was Haley Steinfeld?
Seinfeld. Yeah.
Steinfeld?
As
She was Kate Bishop.
yeah.
Yeah. They should have brought and the Thunderbolts team in as well. They should have brought all of those people in much sooner. And so I to kind of introduce the young Avengers or the new Avengers before introducing Robert Downey Jr. It just feels like and we're bringing this guy back who played the most important guy from it feels like we're bringing Michael Jordan back to play one last
When he's with
season.
the Wizards. Yeah.
Yeah, when he's with the Wizards. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you just made a really, really good secondary point. I don't even know if it was as intentional or not, but there is there is so much setup for Infinity War, right? Like you tease Thanos across all these movies, and you have all these storylines that thread through and weave, and this Avengers Doomsday movie feels like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are the only two movies setting it up. If that feels like we just did that, and all right, here's the crossover. How
I
are
agree.
you really going to get people to? And again, there is always a way to execute it. If you're a good enough writer, you could bring people in and get them to care in just one movie. But that's a really really good writer to do it in just the right way. I don't have faith that they're going to. So even though as a positive as I am on this movie, like it still has the feeling of a like the MCU fell off, and there's these flash in the pan moments of things that I really like, but it doesn't sell me on a level of consistency still,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, and I know some concerning things about Doomsday. I mean, Rebecca Romaine came out and said, like, they asked, "So are you done filming Avengers Doomsday?" And she was like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, they still writing it, so I don't know if I'm done or not done. They're not telling me." So that's a little
And think
concerning.
about how even higher the budget for that movie is going to be. Like starting off 100 million for Robert Downey Jr. per Doomsday and Secret Wars each. Not only that, you have to pay all these other cast members. And now these other cast members are hanging out on set on standby because you haven't finished writing it and you don't know when you're going to be done. So you're paying them more money to like be here for an extended period of time while you're trying to figure it out. The budget, this movie's going to have to make $1 billion just to break even. It's not even going to be like oh, that's a big success. That's going to be like just barely getting by is going to be
Hmm.
$1 billion.
Yeah. Um, sounds tough. Yeah. So we'll see. Avengers Doomsday, which comes out December next year, 2026. There.
It's
Uh,
crazy.
so we'll see there. Yeah, any last
If they
things
don't
about
delay it.
yeah, if they don't know it. Any last things there about Fantastic Four first steps? Anything else about
One small thing I really appreciated. I don't know if either of you noticed this, but when the Silver Surfer first shows up, they show a lot of like civilians, right, kind of coming out and looking up at the sky and stuff. There's a shot very quickly that goes by like an office that's on like the ground level, and there's two look-alike actors that look like Stanley and Jack Kirby, and there's like
Oh,
a wall in the room of like comic strips and like in the process of being made. So it's kind of like before Marvel was famous, Stanley and Jack Kirby like working down the street in the office in New York. I thought that was a really cool touch. It was subtle
yeah,
too. I like that it
Timely
was subtle.
Comics. Yes,
Yeah.
let's see
That's
that little
cool. That's
office
cool.
shot there. Yeah, I don't know. It continues. I saw this in Superman too. I guess civilians they just go like, "This doesn't want to get the fuck out the way." They just instead of just looking up, it's like, bro, just get the fuck out the way, bro. Like it's a big
Well,
kaiju
you know what?
monster.
I
Like,
will say, I think that does some tone establishing in both these movies of this shit happens like every other day.
yeah, like the dude eating Superman just eating yogurt from his shop,
Yeah.
watching. It's like, bro, just get out the window. What you doing?
Like,
But
yeah, but then you'd have to get out the window like every day, and I can't leave work.
yeah. So, but yeah,
Nightmare.
well, very awesome there. So, Sage gave it a peak there, and Lucky Dog gave it a 2. Oh, you want to give it higher?
Well, you know what? I'll stick with the high peak, because there are a couple little things, like maybe a little more with uh, the thing, a little more scenes with that. Uh, the CG on the baby could have been better in some shots, although it didn't bother me as much as it seems to bother a lot of people, just because I felt like it was only a couple scenes and not most of the screen time that it was CG. But just I guess one last thing. This will be my final word. I really appreciated this movie's tone. I ever since I'd say Black Widow specifically was the first one. Uh, ever just post Endgame, I have felt in almost every project the tone of jokes to taking things seriously has been really weird and really off. There's been way too much crowbarred in humor, like to the point that it starts getting on my nerves. And earlier this year, Thunderbolts was also the first movie. That surprised me how much I enjoyed it. Right, that was another movie where I was like, oh wow, okay, this is way better than I thought it would be. But I still docked that movie some points because I felt like they were still doing some of the forced comedy where it didn't fit in that film. And this is the first Marvel movie since Endgame, period, like no exceptions, since Endgame, that I finally was like, oh, thank God they're not just making stupid jokes in every scene and undercutting the tension. I thought this was the first time since Endgame that they actually managed to strike a balance where I believed these characters were real people and they weren't just trying to quip like 24/7. That was a huge thing for this movie for me.
Yeah. What do you think? I know Lucky Dog. Some people have said that. I mean, like, well, there's kind of a little bit of jokes in it, but they're not that funny. They're not really all that chuckle worthy there. What did you
I
think?
Yeah, I agree. The tone is consistent, but the comedy that they try is a little flat for me.
Okay.
I wish that there was a punch up writer just on the jokes that they did do. Um, and I'm just kind of gauging that off of my theater. It was pretty packed, and I had like one lady to the right, like she loved every joke, and it was hitting it for her. But I was
Yeah.
like, I wish I was laughing as much as she was. But um, yeah, if I could just have like like I said, I don't want the jokes to be undercut like Sage was referring to, and I think that Marvel has had that Josh Whedon esque problem ever since he had kind of stepped in. And so that's why I would say that I would honestly, I liked how serious it was, but if you're gonna do some comedy, make it fucking funny, and call him a rock bitch or something. I don't know, like flame on or something. Do something, poke him with a stick. So, um, I wanted one one punch up writer. That's it.
Yeah. Well, there's 4 people on the screenplay.
Is there?
Yeah, 4 people here. So I don't know what each of
Usually,
them.
the more writers, the worse. I feel like so maybe we could cut one of those and bring the punch up writer
Yeah,
in to replace them.
Yeah.
yeah,
I know
and
some
and
people
I'll
said.
say, even as a counterpoint to my own what I've said, we've seen when it goes too far the other direction, where it's way too overly serious with
yeah.
like Zack Snyder DC movies and
Oh,
stuff too. So I
I thought
don't,
you were gonna
I'm not
say
looking for that either. But
Eternals. I thought you were gonna say Eternals.
oh well, I mean, Eternals felt like Zack Snyder directed a Marvel movie, so that's actually
True,
pretty apt still.
true.
I know some people wanted more back and forth joking with the Thing and Johnny, and people wanted more of that. Yeah, because you get a
To be
little bit
honest,
of.
I felt like I got a lot of it, like with this toy in the cereal box and him poking at him with the catchphrase, or them arguing about who's going to go downstairs to check. Like just off the top of my head, I can list like 3 whole scenes of them poking each other and bantering. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I say, it was enough for me. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Final
see
thing.
why that other people feel that way.
What do you think this movie's going to cap out at? Right now, it has a box office of 216 million. What do you think is going to end up final box office for it?
I'm thinking like 600,
Six.
600 billion. I think would be.
So, yeah,
Did
maybe
you say
more than Superman or about the same
like
Superman.
billion?
I think it'll be similar. I think they'll
No.
honestly be close to each other.
Yeah. What do you think? We say 600. You said 600 billion. That's what you thought you said.
Yeah, I thought he said
Oh.
billion.
Oh
Oh
no.
God,
Oh,
no, yeah.
yeah. I've
That's
been
how
thinking
much
about.
Doomsday is going to have to make to be profitable.
True. Um, Yeah, he's got 6. Let me get. I think it's gonna come right under Superman. I think Superman's right around 5 right now. I think Superman's gonna top out around 6. So give me 500.
All right, 500, 500, 600, 600.
Yeah,
500
let's
Quebec.
go.
Sold. Okay. So you at 500, Sage at 600. I think, yeah, I say, I don't know. I'll go in the middle. I'll be like the asshole from Price is Right. I'll go
Oh.
530. I'll go there. I'll go
Like
in
501,
there.
please.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So
Got
yeah.
me.
Strong peak from Sage. A good tune in from Lucky Dog. A tune in from me. 4 first steps. Spoiler thoughts there.